Good evening, ladies and gents, my name is Hiezo and I'm DiscussThing, and today we're going to discuss something that was quite a surprise for me on one hand and unexpected letdown on another level. I'm talking of course about the Game Awards. Now, we all had our speculation about who the nominees will be, how all the lists are going to be, which games are gonna be on and which games are not going to be on, and I'm actually happy to say that on that level we were almost entirely wrong, and for the good part. However, there were also some hilarious mishaps and some a bit troubling news that came across with an update from my previous video, and we're going to look at all of this now. Now, I haven't had time to personally research and deep dive all of these things myself, so basically what we're going to see are some news articles and some other tweets from other content creators. I'm still bound to my day job and I simply do not have the time of day to do the deep dives that I was able to do when I was off. So until I get a more stable stance on YouTube, this is the way most it's going to be. I'm sorry, but I am happy to put in my own opinion that I do believe that at least some of you do wish to hear, for which I am happy. So without any further ado, I just want to start with this. We're going to look at the Game Awards official Twitter page to see exactly what they nominated for the different categories. And right off the bat, we see that the Game of the Year is quite interesting. So to get things out of the way, we have one thing that stands out that I personally am on the heel of the people who say that DLCs should not be contenders for Game of the Year. I am for DLCs getting their own category or having some other type of nomination. However, when you have something additional to an already existing game, which is from, let's say, last year or 2 years ago, it shouldn't be nominated as a new game. And I'm talking about Elden Ring Shadow of the Earth tree. Sorry if I mispronounced that. But moving along, we have what is probably the biggest surprise for me on this list is Black Myth Wukong, which to me is something very curious, because a lot of people, including myself, thought that this game would not be nominated, it would be snubbed, it would just not make the list because the woke agenda does not allow for an actual good game without any feminist insert and tick boxes, especially coming from China, that was slandered vigorously by a lot of news media, would be allowed to be here. But here it is, and if anything, I think this is the game that should win. Now, what we don't see here is Stellar Blade. Now, granted, Stellar Blade is a smaller production game and they're only going for probably the biggest ones, although I haven't even heard about Balatro, which is apparently a kind of a card game. I'm not an expert on gaming, but I haven't heard on that. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor ReFantazio, which is a new game, it is doing great on Steam, and of course Astrobot, which was, from what I saw, quite popular as well. This is not a bad list, by the way. We also have the best sports racing, which I actually am not quite a big fan of sports games, but we have WWE 2K24, NBA EA Sports. I do believe that these are kind of the usual names that you would get, because I think these are the games that almost always stand out. We have the best VR AR game, which I almost have no touch with those kind of games. And I see Metro Awakening, which is something that once somewhere in time I get a VR headset, I would probably want to try out. We have Batman Arkham Shadow and several other games. Let's move on. We have Sim Strategy game, which does have something of, well, not a DLC, but the retold version, which is Age of Mythology Retold, which I was actually planning on playing at a certain point because I love Age of Mythology. I don't know how the game is doing as in terms of popularity. I know there were some issues with the voice acting this time along, but I can't tell you anything more about it now. We have best score music, best RPG, which has Dragon Dogma, Final Fantasy, Like a Dragon, Metaphor, and Fantasy. So you have some games that are repeating, which is good. You have best ongoing game. I see Diablo 4 here. I see Helldivers. Best narrative, which again has Metaphor Refantasio, sorry. Final Fantasy Reboot, multiplayer games. You have a lot. And I see also Warhammer 40k here, Space Marine 2, which is quite amazing. It's an awesome game. I've watched several streams on it. I personally cannot play it on my potato PC because it's going to burn through everything. And basically these are it from what I see. I don't know if I'm seeing all of it. So the inclusion of several of these games is quite interesting, because we were actually pretty convinced that right up until the end, shows like the Geoff Keighley's Game Awards will continue to pander to the DEI, the woke narrative, and all of that, and just promote the games that the Access Media promotes on their websites. However, if you remember, there are some articles about, let's say, the game that everyone expected to be there, Dragon Age the Veilguard, that have started to back away, and I made a video about that, and there are a lot of other articles that are starting to popping up that are starting to just kind of getting a pullback from their initial positive, overwhelmingly praising reviews, because the truth is out, no matter who is trying to subvert it. Dragon Age Veilguard is an absolute failure. It barely has sold 1 million copies. The Steam charts are abysmal. It has a lot of refunds, and it costs around 200 million, which doesn't bode well for BioWare as a company. And having the fact that even BioWare has allegedly abandoned the game just to be on its own without any DLCs and just focusing on Mass Effect just speaks volumes that they have no interest in keeping the game alive anymore. And while these news are kind of good, you have some pretty good games there, even though you have some games that probably shouldn't be there, not because they're bad games per se, but there are a lot more games that are more worthy if you're looking at from the fans' perspective. And there are also some mishaps that I would like to point out, which were pretty funny for me. From Stuttering Craig, we have some deleted now tweets that just have Black Myth Wukong be labeled Black Myth Waking and Elden Ring be labeled Shadows of the Eritrea. Which, yeah, you can make spelling mistake here and there, but usually you should have editors for that. Proof checks, content checks, like some sort of quality control over that, and that isn't apparent here. And for a game show of this size, because whatever you might think, the Game Awards show is a huge event. Like, you have a lot of funding for it, you have a lot of work put into it to look as grand as possible. That's kind of funny, and it just shows the overall incompetence of a lot of the people that are involved in it. And moving away further from that, I would like to point out something to your attention that I first saw on Smash JT's channel and on the page Pirate Nation on Twitter, which is this. This is a screenshot from an email that the creator and the host of the Game Awards, Geoff Keighley, has been sending to many people in his efforts to trademark the name the Game Awards. The interesting thing for me here is the second paragraph, which says, as a fan who joined us for one of our Zoom sessions during the pandemic, we are reaching out with a quick request, and the request is to fill out a form that they support the trademark of the name. So that second paragraph means that during the 4 years of the pandemic, one of our Zoom calls, which I think they have had many of those during that time, he's reaching out to a whole plethora of people who basically were there. Yeah, maybe some of them were more active fans, they had probably platforms or speeches or anything, but the majority, which I think are at least several thousand in my opinion, you're reaching people who probably just joined once and forgot about it afterwards and just have a memory of either a pleasant or a weird experience depending on them. and you're sending them an email after all this time. Imagine just, let's say you're on a sale of a new product and you have been at a presentation 4 years ago, and suddenly, yeah, you put your name, your personal information there if you want to be contacted for something, or just for, let's say, a raffle or any of these things. And suddenly, years later, you receive an email that say, this is a gentle call to action if you're a true fan to just support us in this. Which is weird to do that, especially when it comes to something like trademarking. And I explained that in my last video that to me, this is absolutely baffling. To be able to be to trademark such a general name as the Game Awards and to just copyright the words themselves in that manner and not allow anyone else to use them or use them in certain circumstances, it's just so cringy to me to be able to do that. And I know that there were some people on Twitter, especially Alyssa Mercante, who said that he filed for this trademark even in January, but that doesn't make it better. That doesn't make it any different, because he's still doing that, and it's still an abhorrent thing to try to do, because that ensures that you have the monopoly on those Game Awards and you're basically censoring people, which is absolutely baffling to me. And while this year's Game Awards do have some nice names in it, the media is still continuing to bring down the excitement for these games that we all love and enjoy, and we have shown that with our wallets, and they're still trying to bring them down any way possible. And while this does look like the last ditch effort of a dying industry to just do as much damage as possible, it's taking to such a laughable level that I don't think that anyone with their right mind will be able to take them seriously. And I'm talking about the case with Black Myth Wukong. Now, 21 hours ago, The Gamer published this article. Black Myth Wukong is the lowest rated game to get a Game Awards GOTY nomination. And I'm just going to scroll down and point to this here. So, Black Myth Wukong, as it is actually the lowest ever rated title to become a Game of the Year nominee at the Game Awards, sitting at 81 on Metacritic. You might think, yeah, that's true. It's the lowest rated. But why do they emphasize that it was the lowest rated on Metacritic? Because they don't want to emphasize on the actual truth. And the actual truth is, if you look at the Steam charts, you'll see something over here, which is over reviews, 729,000, overwhelmingly positive. This is from 729,000 people, including myself, by the way. And if you go even up and then go to the Google search, and you see on this right panel here, you see that Steam DB charts are at 96%, and Steam is a 10 out of 10 rating, with 95% of the people liking this video game. With the amount of sales, which are over 20 million sales, and with the amount of reviews on Steam, to have a 95% positive review and have that article that I just showed you is just laughable. And it all comes down together when you just connect the pieces. You have first the backtracking, which is the pullback from games like Dragon Age the Vanguard and replacing them with Black Myth Wukong, with Stellar Blade even for one of the categories, which is the biggest surprise after all of the derogatory and absolutely abhorrent articles that were written about both of those games throughout this year. Then you have Geoff Keighley, who is desperately trying to trademark his Game Awards show so that he can actually stop this and prevent from anyone else like Stuttering Craig from Side Scrollers and Geeks and Gamers to just make their own show and to include everyone and every paying customer and every gamer a direct vote without any corporate sponsorships that would interfere with that vote. And then you have the Access Media on their last ditch effort to just bring down as much as possible the games that are on there. It's like a chess move. You go a little bit backwards, you just take a step back, you allow these games to be on there, but then you double down and Then if those games don't win, which probably won't happen, you just go, you see, we did allow games like Black Myth, Wukong and Stellar Blade to be on there, but they didn't win, which means they're not that liked as people suggested, ignoring the fact that 90% of the vote comes from sponsors, game journalists, industry experts, and only 10% of the vote comes from actual gamers, from the actual people who paid for the game to play it, review it, experience it, and cast their vote. This classic dismissal of any protest and information is so tired out that nobody is buying it. The tides are turning very rapidly, and no matter what the Axis media is trying to push or continue to push or say, we know one thing now. We, the gamers, and we, the YouTubers, and the other people that don't have YouTube channels but comment and are active, we have a voice, and that voice is so strong that it scares these people who are trying to control the language, the narrative, the gaming industry, and all of that. And it was proven several times. The failure of Dragon Age Velgar, the failure of Concord, the failure of Dustborn. This is all coming from people who are tired of being told what to play and what is good and what they should believe, think, say, or support. And if major gaming journalist websites and companies had a huge sway over the years on gamers, on what they think, on how they view a game, which was absolutely dominant at one point in time, currently they hold no power. In fact, every time sites like IGN post that there is a problem with a game, or one game is problematic in itself, or another game is the best thing that has come out, it is thoroughly reviewed by a lot of people to see what part of it is truth and what is a lie. And around 90% of the cases, it all comes down to it's being a lie and it's just a narrative push. With the addition of such huge YouTube channels like Smash JT, like Geeks and Gamers, like Asmongold, and all of the other smaller channels that are rising up, that are taking the voice, that are becoming more and more vocal and supporting the freedom of gamers to choose and the development of actual good games instead of just another production line and another narrative piece. The tides are turning so much and so fast that I think nobody even predicted that it's going to be that fast. Nobody expected that Assassin's Creed would be delayed. Nobody expected Dragon Age Velgar to flop. The best estimates were to underperform, and nobody expected that it wouldn't even be included as a game of the contender. So things are falling apart. As I mentioned in the last video, it's like a house of cards in Chicago, and it's going to be blown away really, really soon. I can't wait to see what will happen on the Game Awards, and I can't wait for the real Game Awards to start and to see exactly how much the popularity of that show will just blow away people's minds, because as I have been saying for several videos, we're the gamers, we're the voice, we have the power, and we should have the say in the matter. And that's exactly what is going to happen, and it's going to continue to happen, and it's going to be more powerful than anyone predicted. That is my opinion, but I'm willing to place my vote and my name on what I just said, because this is the fight, and the fight is just. Thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you for staying so long if you did. If you like this video and my content, click the like and subscribe button to support me on YouTube. If you want to support my channel directly, click the join button and choose one of the tiers that come with extra nice perks in the DiscussThing army. And if you want to support homeless animals and animals in shelters with food, with clothes, with warmth, and with medical care, click on the Patreon page link down in the description below and become a member there. All the proceeds there go for homeless animals and animals in shelters. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Helzo and this was DiscussThing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers and stay fresh.